Chapter 36. The Justice of God. Genesis 18, 1-33. And the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes, and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door, and bowed himself toward the ground, and said, My Lord, if now I have found favour in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort ye your hearts, after ye shall pass on, for therefore are ye come to your servant. And they said, So do as thou hast said. And Abraham hastened into the tent unto Sarah, and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes upon the hearth. And Abraham ran unto the herd, and fetched a calf tender and good, and gave it unto a young man, and he hasted to dress it. And he took butter and milk, and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. And they said unto him, Where is Sarah thy wife? And he said, Behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of life, and lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old also? And the Lord said unto Abraham, Wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I of a surety bear a child which am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the time appointed I will return unto thee according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. Then Sarah denied, saying, I laughed not, for she was afraid. And he said, Nay, but thou didst laugh. And the men rose up from thence, and looked towards Sodom, and Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. And the Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord, to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of by him. And the Lord said, Because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me, and if not, I will know. And the men turned their face from thence, and went toward Sodom. But Abraham stood yet before the Lord. And Abraham drew near and said, Wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there be 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy and not spare the place for the 50 righteous that are therein? That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, and that the righteous should be as the wicked, that be far from thee. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? And the Lord said, If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, Behold now, I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord, which am but dust and ashes. Peradventure there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, If I find there 40 and 5, I will not destroy it. And he spake unto him yet again, and said, Peradventure there shall be 40 found there. And he said, I will not do it for 40's sake. And he said unto him, O let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Peradventure there shall be 30 found there. And he said, I will not do it if I find 30 there. And he said, Behold now, I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord. Peradventure there shall be 20 found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 20's sake. And he said, O let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak yet but this once. Peradventure 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And the Lord went on his way as soon as he had left, communing with Abraham. And Abraham returned unto his place. Genesis 18, 1-33. This well-known chapter is a vivid glimpse of the life in Abraham's day, and in like eras of history, we see the readiness to extend hospitality for, at one time, instead of every man living in isolation, they lived with a sense of community. The alternative to community was hostility and even warfare. Hospitality was a duty, and it was unhurried. Food was prepared, and, in this instance, Abraham not only had Sarah prepare or supervise the preparation of bread and more, but he had a calf butchered and roasted for his guests. This took time, and such time was spent in extended conversation as a means of knowing one another. Such hospitality was generous. The common meal could take hours. Abraham had Sarah prepare a bushel of bread, which provided enough for the meal, for the guests to take with them on their journey, and for those who helped prepare and serve the meal. It is an ancient premise of biblical faith that the labourer is worthy of his hire, Luke 10:7, 1 Timothy 5:18. It goes back to the law in Deuteronomy 25:4, cited by Paul to Timothy, "Thou shalt not muzzle the ox when he treadeth out the corn." By the way of contrast to the patriarchal hospitality, we see in Genesis 19:5 the sodomite reception of strangers, the insistence on homosexual rape. Romans 1:20-32 tells us that the fullness of the hatred of God and His law is manifested in homosexuality, which reverses all godly order. Its perversity is such that it replaces hospitality with rape. The antithesis is very clear and sharply depicted. In no way can it be overlooked. Abraham and his guests sat, visited, and ate under a shade tree, verse 8. At some point during their conversation, it was apparent to Abraham that the three strangers were God and two angels, 19:10. God early on identified himself to Abraham. The first statement by God to Abraham was that Abraham would have a son by Sarah, verse 10. Sometime earlier, God had made a like statement to Abraham, who had laughed, apparently with great delight, 17:17. Now Sarah laughed with amusement and unbelief, verses 9-15, because the idea of an old and impotent husband becoming again potent and fertile struck her as amusing. Perhaps in such matters, men are more hopeful than women. God, however, treated Sarah's amusement with humour. Even as he had been gracious to Hagar, so he was with Sarah. When Sarah, embarrassed, said, "I laughed not," God said, "Nay, but thou didst laugh," verse 15. Second, after the dinner, the three arose to leave. As per custom, Abraham walked a short distance with them on their way. This was once a common custom, but now it is limited to seeing people to the door or to their automobile. God then spoke to Abraham in a remarkable way, almost as an associate. He says that he will not hide from Abraham what he is about to do, since Abraham is the man through whom he will bring his purposes to pass, verses 17-19. The offence of Sodom is to be dealt with because God's patience is at an end, verses 20 and 21. The two angels or men go towards Sodom, but God stays with Abraham for a time. Abraham is deeply concerned not for Sodom, but for Lot and his family. He asks God if he would spare the city for the sake of 50 righteous men. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? Or in Harold G. Singer's translation, shall not the judge of the whole earth administer justice? Abraham knows that justice requires judgment, but what constitutes a saving remnant? God's answer was that he would spare Sodom if there were 50 righteous persons, verses 23-26. His basic question was this: wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Verse 23. As we see in Genesis 19, God does spare the righteous, but only if they use the opportunity to separate themselves from evil. Abraham persisted, would God spare Sodom if there were 45 righteous persons? Verse 28. We cannot reduce this to 45 decent people. righteous means wholly given to justice. It does not include the lukewarm of whom our Lord speaks with a special contempt in Revelation 3:15 and 16. God's response is, He will not destroy it if 45 righteous persons are there. Abraham then asked about 40 persons or 30 or 20, always with the same answer from God. Finally, Abraham asked if the city would be spared for the sake of 10 men, and again God promises mercy. Abraham then, quote, returned unto his place, verse 33, confidence in God's mercy, having been assured of its extent. In verse 20, we are told that, quote, the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, because their sin is very grievous. Although Abraham's concern is with Sodom, God's judgment was on the cities of the plain, of which Sodom and Gomorrah were the most important. Abraham recognizes that God's purpose is total judgment, and he uses the word consume, meaning utter destruction, to show that he recognizes what God has in mind. Calvin made clear that, while God was ready to spare Sodom for the sake of 10 righteous men, he was by no means ready to do the same for Jerusalem in our Lord's day. Jerusalem crucified the incarnate God the Son, and its offence was greater. Abraham may have been aware of the identity of his visitors from the beginning, since the text appears to indicate their sudden appearance before him. The question raised by Abraham is with respect to the justice of God. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? By raising this question, Abraham makes clear his faith that justice is the very nature of God, and he expects it from him. The problem for Abraham, as for us, is, do we understand the nature of God's justice, and do we believe in it and accept it? Abraham's question presupposed two things. First, because God is the God of justice, judgment on Sodom is necessary. Second, because God is a righteous Lord, He will save the just persons in Sodom. Again, this is necessary because God reveals Himself as God in all His ways and acts. God is always God.